Welcome to the Explainer. Okay, today we're exploring the seriously fascinating world of a legendary, and I mean incredibly rare Japanese green tea. When I first started looking into Japanese tea, I really only knew the absolute giants, Shizuoka and Uji. But as it turns out, there's this hidden jewel tucked away in the Musashino Plateau. It's a tea that completely defies the odds of geography, history, and even modern mass production to deliver what a lot of people consider the absolute pinnacle of flavor. Yep, we're talking about Sayama tea. Okay, let's dive into this.
Section 1. A legendary rare tea.
To really grasp this tea's heavyweight reputation, you have to hear this famous local proverb that's been passed down for generations. It goes, color of Shizuoka, aroma of Uji, taste of Sayama. And honestly, this isn't just some localized pride talking here. For centuries, real connoisseurs have recognized that while other regions might prioritize, say, the beautiful, vibrant green color of the leaves or those delicate floral aromas, Sayama is unequivocally focused on one thing and one thing only, the absolute pinnacle of actual flavor. It's a tea that's literally designed to be tasted, felt, and remembered.
Now, what's completely wild to me is the sheer contrast between that massive legendary reputation and its actual presence on the market. Today, the major producing regions of Shizuoka and Kagoshima dominate, taking up about 80% of Japan's tea market. But Sayama tea, which is mostly grown in Saitama Prefecture around Aruma City, it makes up a microscopic 2% of total national production. To put that into perspective, we're talking about roughly 440 tons. That is incredibly rare. So the big question is, how does a tea with such a tiny production volume earn a reputation that rivals the undisputed giants?
Section 2. The Science of the Taste. Well, I found out the answer lies in some brilliant agricultural science. It all starts with a very unique terroir concept known locally as Joshikitsu Kakan, which basically translates to upper wet, lower dry. Now, tea plants are notoriously thirsty. They absolutely love rain, but they also hate sitting in puddles. The roots really need to breathe. And the Musashino Plateau provides this perfect paradox. The area gets slammed with about 1,500 millimeters of rain annually, which is well above the 1,300 millimeters usually needed for tea. But right beneath the surface lies the Kanto loam layer. It's this volcanic ash soil that drains water exceptionally well. So the plants get all the hydration they could ever want without ever drowning. But the real magic, that happens in the winter. See, tea plants naturally thrive in warm climates. Sayama, however, represents the absolute northern limit for commercial, large-scale tea production in Japan. It gets freezing cold. So the crucial point is how the plant actually reacts to this stress. To survive those harsh winters, the tea plants have to grow much slower, and they end up developing incredibly thick leaves. And because that growth is so slow, the leaves don't develop as many catechins, which are the compounds that cause bitterness and astringency. Instead, they stockpile these rich amino acids. While your standard warm climate farms might harvest 3 to 5 times a year, Sayama farmers typically only harvest once or twice. All of that energy, all of that rich umami and sweetness, gets concentrated into a profoundly thick, nutrient-dense leaf.
Section 3. The Sayama roasting technique.
Okay, so growing a thick, sweet leaf is awesome, but it's really only half the battle. To extract its full potential, humans had to step in and invent unique processing techniques. The true signature of this region is a finishing process called Sayama Hairi, or Sayama fire roasting. Because these leaves are so incredibly thick and robust, they can withstand and actually really require a much higher heat during the final drying phase. This high heat roasting completely transforms the tea. It neutralizes any of those grassy green notes and replaces them with this extraordinarily deep, sweet, and just really comforting roasted aroma. When you brew it, you aren't getting a cloudy neon green liquid. You get a brilliantly clear golden liquor that just coats your palate with a rich, savory sweetness. You can literally almost taste the warmth. And honestly, we cannot talk about Sayama's processing without mentioning temomi. This is the traditional art of hand rolling. Long before machines were ever a thing, artisans would spend over 8 grueling hours continuously rolling the steamed leaves over a heated table by hand. They did this to meticulously break down the cell walls and release all that amazing flavor. Now today, over 99% of tea is machine processed. But here's the cool part. The mechanical actions of modern machines are directly modeled right after the precise, rhythmic hand movements of those temomi masters. It's a living tradition. It ensures the soul of the artisan actually remains in every single modern batch.
Section 4. Decline and Dramatic Revival.
Given its absolutely incredible flavor, I kind of just assumed Sayama Tea always enjoyed an uninterrupted reign of success. But historically, it almost completely vanished. The seeds were first brought to Japan from China by the monk Aisai around the early 13th century. By the medieval period, local tea cultivation had spread to the Kanto region, and it was heavily supported by prominent Buddhist temples. Back then, it was famously known as Kawagoe tea, and it really thrived. But as Japan descended into centuries of pretty brutal civil war, those great temples lost their power, the fields were abandoned, and the tea essentially disappeared right back into the wild. It actually wasn't until 1819, during the late Edo period, that an incredible underdog comeback began.
This whole revival was sparked by three deeply passionate local pioneers, Yoshikawa Yoshizumi, Murano Morimasa, and Sashida Hanemon. They knew in their bones their land had potential, but the local processing methods were just way too primitive. Meanwhile, down in Uji, a revolutionary new steamed sencha method had been invented. So these three pioneers essentially pulled off a 19th century startup pivot. They spent 10 agonizing years running trial and error experiments. They even traveled all the way to Uji just to spy on and learn these advanced techniques. Finally, after a whole decade of failure and refinement, they perfected their product and marched straight into the bustling metropolis of Edo, which is modern-day Tokyo, to pitch their tea to the absolute biggest merchants in the country.
Section 5. Conquering the Edo market.
So picture this. These unknown farmers were now trying to sell a brand new product in a market completely dominated by established luxury southern brands. Talk about an uphill battle, right? But in 1816, they managed to secure a fateful meeting with the fifth-generation head of the Yamamoto Yamatoma Tea Company, Kahei Tokujun. Yamamoto Yama was a massive deal in Edo. Tokujun tasted their newly perfected Sayama tea, and he was absolutely blown away. He instantly recognized the profound, sweet depth of that cold weather leaf combined with the new steamed processing. He poured his vast merchant network into promoting it, and practically overnight, Sayama tea became an absolute sensation among the Edo elite. That grueling 10-year gamble had finally paid off.
And this brilliantly illustrates just how much this success meant to the region. If you look at the Izumoe Y Shrine in Arma today, you'll find two massive stone monuments watching over the fields. The first one, erected in 1832, honors those three pioneers for reopening the tea fields. The second one, built in 1876, celebrates an era when Sayama tea was being exported globally to America. It proudly notes that Western buyers were refusing anything but Sayama, proving it could absolutely go toe-to-toe with the famous Uji tea. It is literally a permanent testament to their resilience carved right into stone.
Section 6. The artisan spirit today. That intense historical resilience, that refusal to give up, and the constant drive to innovate and overcome the harsh northern climate, that's still the defining characteristic of the Sayama tea farmer today. Unlike a lot of other regions where farmers might simply grow the leaves and then sell them off to massive centralized processing factories, Sayama operates on a really unique business model. It's known as Jian, Jizei, Jihan, which translates to self-grown, self-made, and self-sold. The vast majority of Sayama farmers cultivate their own plants, carefully roast and process the leaves right in their own facilities using specific family techniques, and then sell that tea directly to you, the consumer. It's the ultimate expression of artisan pride. They maintain absolute control over the quality, from the volcanic soil of the Musashino Plateau straight to your teacup. Which brings us to a final thought. We've seen exactly how this tea survives freezing winters just to produce those thick, sweet leaves. We've explored the high-heat roasting that unlocks its golden, savory essence, and we've traced its miraculous 10-year revival by pioneers who simply refused to let their local legacy die. It truly is Japan's 2% miracle. So, knowing the centuries of struggle, the total defiance of geography, and the immense artisan pride brewed into every single drop, how will your next cup of Sayama tea taste? Next time you have the chance to seek out this rare gem, take a moment to really savor the history in the cup. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and as always, keep learning.